Welcome, friends. Welcome back. This will be our final episode with Anand in this series, the conversation with. Today, it will be. I will not be asking many questions. Rather, I am taking all the questions. I have already got loads of questions from audience, and mostly I'll be asking those questions to Anand. And towards the end, I'll be showing some positions from Anand's game, and we'll be discussing a little bit. So let's welcome Anand. Hi, Anand.
Hi.
Hi, how are you
Hello.
doing?
Hi, sorry. How are you?
Awesome, awesome. So the other day I asked audience to give me some questions, and now my all my social network and mobile is completely flooded with questions. I don't know if I'll be able to ask. It's impossible to ask all of those, but mostly I will ask as many as I can. Shall we start?
Sure.
Okay. Uh, the very first question I got that is from Vishnu, uh, Grandmaster Vishnu Prasanna. He asked, "Do you believe that there is something that you don't understand about chess, and what do you do when you encounter such positions over the board?"
Um, yes, I have the feeling that there's quite a lot that I don't understand about chess. Um, in fact, we can say that because grandmasters tend to study chess in a certain way, the more chaotic a position gets, the less well a grandmaster will play. And I have the same tendency, amplified by clearly in my favorite setups and my favorite openings. I feel my way much better than in positions which I have hardly ever played. So, how do I get better? Simply by either studying people who are good at these positions or have done more of that, or just analyze the position and try to get into a comfort zone. I mean, I think the best way is to put the position, try to guess your own moves, and then see how wrong they are at the beginning. And as they get better, well, that's a good sign that you're not so much at sea.
Yeah, Anand, like this is one of the very important lesson of life that I actually learned from you. That even when we started working first, I observed this that you never felt embarrassed or you never felt shy to say that I don't understand certain things. And when I see many players, they have this attitude that they know everything. And at your level, after achieving everything, still you are able to say that no, you don't understand certain things, you are still willing to learn. I think for me personally, I think this is what also keeps you going and kept you at elite for such a strong for decades.
Yes, well, I would say that when I was working, especially with the team, I made a mental note. Uh, Typically, one of the common mistakes people make, or a common mistake anyway, is that you say what you think about the position, and then somebody says the opposite. And then instead of trying to understand what the position is actually about, you start defending your position. This is quite a common mistake
Right.
in arguments and politics and so on. That you state your case, your opinion, and then you start defending that and don't look at the evidence anymore. Um, this happened quite often in our camps because, of course, you guys are all strong players, and quite often what you would say just really almost irritated me because I mean, it's not that I'm angry with you, but you're irritated. You don't understand it. You're irritated that you might be wrong, and you don't. But it doesn't make sense to get the four of you and then not listen to what you have to say. Let's put it that way. I mean,
right.
so I made that mental note to, and I don't know how successful I was, but after I think maybe a week or two, I managed to stop saying what I thought about a position at the beginning.
Right.
And that's helpful.
Yeah, today's question will not be very, it might not have a pattern because I'm just getting lots of different questions from different people. So we'll be jumping around a lot.
Sure.
So there is Mayur Gondhalekar. I think he's from Japan if I'm not mistaken. He is writing in chat that where did you learn salsa dance? Was it difficult or awkward for you? I play chess and have learned salsa to a good level. curious to know how learning salsa was for Grandmaster Anand.
Okay, so Aruna and me, there was a gym in a town near where we lived in Spain, and one day we found them advertising a salsa dance class, and it's one of these fun things you do that Aruna said, "Well, why don't we try it?" And I thought, well, yes, why not? Why don't we try it?
Right.
The classes did not go well. I mean, the music is fun and everything, but very quickly I was out of step with Aruna. So, I mean, she's
She is
doing
professional
certain
dancer.
steps, and I'm completely out of sync. And this is particularly embarrassing in dance because you don't know how you should correct it. Once
Yeah.
you've lost everybody else,
Yeah.
you're out of sync, regardless whether you go forward or backward, sideways, this way, left or right. There is no way to get back in sync except by skipping 4 steps and just trying to do whatever step they're in.
Right.
So it was not. From his description, it's clear that his salsa is much better than mine.
Yeah. There is Omkar Brahmbhat who is asking how he manages his sleep schedule, like at what time he sleeps during World Championship and now, like he prepare late night or wake up early morning.
During the World Championship, I'm fairly disciplined in the sense that I get back to my room from the training camp. From the work session, latest 10:30, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe sometimes stretch it to 11, but you get back,
Mm-hmm.
and then we watch something for a while just to let the mind relax. Some show, some comedy, whatever. And then I go off to sleep, and typically I get a good solid 8 hours, so I wouldn't wake up before 8 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Needless to say, there are many occasions where I've had sleepless nights and so on, but still we're going through the motions. I mean, you're lying in bed, closing your eyes and trying your best. But of course, there are many times when I'm unsuccessful in having a good night's sleep.
Right.
At home, sometimes I work late. So after both of them have gone to sleep, I come and work for a bit because then I can do some quiet work. But especially when Akhil is going to school, it's the moment he gets up, either I will sense that both of them are getting up and get up, or he will just jump and play and then you get up. So in the mornings, there's a hard deadline, which is when Akhil wakes up, I wake. In this case, I sometimes compensate by having a nap in the afternoon, which is
Sure.
highly recommended. I think the Spaniards are onto something.
Siesta, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
There is a question from IM and WGM Padmini Raut. She has asked, more commonly known as Paddu, she has asked advice for women players to win more open tournaments and break into top level chess. I think many women players have more or less this common questions, like why they are not winning more open tournaments and why they are not breaking at elite level despite of their hard work and intelligence. What is that thing that is missing?
I don't know. I'm quite surprised that, I mean, my own feeling would be that chess is one of those areas where there should not be much of a gender gap. But it's there and it's quite persistent. And to those who say that this gender gap is based on something real, it's hard to explain why women have gotten much better relative to men recently, even though they haven't closed the gap. So I don't have a clear answer to that question, but for her, it's quite easy to answer. So I would say, Padmini is not representing a gender; she's representing herself, and so you do what you do better. Whatever you're doing, try to do it better, and one day you'll crack the code. That's what I think. So in terms of advice for some, if I was training some girls, I would not get into other questions. I would just sit and work through positions. That's how you get better. Advice would be the same to them.
Right. Actually, I will add one of my question here. I was in Mind Masters. I think at some point you wrote that chess is centered around your own emotions. Like it makes a lot of difference, how you're controlling your emotions. Do you think that that can have some impact with women players? Like men are in a way better to deal with their emotions when it comes to game. I remember Levon at some point he was claiming this also.
I have heard a variety of theories. One is simply that chess is quite physically intense, and therefore there is a physical component, and that's why just like girls are weaker at football or hockey, they're also weaker in chess. That's one theory I've heard. Emotions, it's possible. It's possible that at a certain point their mind wanders to other things or something. I don't know. I mean, I've heard a bunch of theories, but I can't see why. Because in most of life, women are actually more often mature.
Actually, exactly.
And more often able to control their emotions. And I mean, I'm wandering into dangerous territory here, but anyway, it can't.
We both
it's not
are.
obvious to me why there should be a handicap in chess.
Yeah.
But okay, there is till date there is a performance gap, and we can't explain it.
Right.
Right now, it's concentrated at the very top. So maybe in the top 100 men, you can see there's one Judith, but it's really quite a big gap there.
Right. There is a question from Saurav Kulkarni. He says, how does the family celebrate when Vishy wins a major tournament?
Usually it's something very nice. I mean, I remember when I won Hunty, Aruna and Akhil came to the airport, and I had not expected this. They didn't tell me they were coming. And of course, the police people allowed them to come to the gate. So I walk out of the plane expecting to make a phone call and tell them, I've landed, and suddenly there they are, and that was nice. We'll have some quiet celebration. I mean, I'll come back. Aruna will make a cake or something like that. This is also an excuse for Akhil because it's nice she enjoys making something for him, and this is just an excuse to do so. Or we'll buy each other something, just normal stuff.
Right. There's a question from Setu. When I asked Setu,
the Hindi singer, right?
The Hindi singer, the famous Hindi singer.
Yeah, there you are.
Who by the way, happened to write a book on Taimanov, but basically our popular singer.
Playback singer, yes.
Yeah, the playback singer. So I asked him if he has some question, and he has sent me some list. I can make a book out of it, and I'm just picking one. So he says, the training in chess compared to other sports does not have some kind of fixed schedule of work. It's a cliche question when people ask me how many hours do I work on chess, because I don't have a definite answer. As they say, if one enjoys the work, you don't feel like working. But at some point it gets monotonous and your productivity gets low. I have read in some of the autobiographies of prominent sportspersons saying that the key to progress is that they tend to push even when they get bored to keep the work going. What are your thoughts on it? Do you ever keep a count on your working time, or have some goals on your training time, or it just flows?
That's a very interesting question. In chess, I feel that sometimes when you're not getting anywhere, you should go take a walk and get out a bit, or even go to sleep and revisit the problem the next day. It's a well-known technique in many areas that people solve all sorts of complicated problems, and I'm not talking of chess only. They solve all sorts of complicated problems while they sleep in their dream, and then they come back the next morning and they figure it out. On the other hand, I wouldn't give up too early either. I mean, you cannot say the moment I don't feel I'm being productive, I should leave. So some amount of, there's always the optimum amount. Some amount of forcing yourself to solve something where the answer is not evident is good. Too much is redundant. And you have to find that balance on your own is probably my best.
So you also
best, midpoint I can find.
You also kept going number of times during match, even after you're feeling tired, or let's say you want to sleep or something, but still I saw you kept on going. So,
Yes, well, my own opinion has wandered all over the place. Clearly, I felt that during Bond, we were having so much fun and it was going so well that the work it didn't feel like work. Against Topolov, already I feel that we worked too long and it didn't make too much sense. But by the time we got to the Gelfand match, I realized that the way we were working was not producing the results we needed. So you have to adjust a bit. I mean, I keep going back to these examples, but equally before, when I'm working alone, there are times from the moment where I don't seem to be getting anywhere, it's still worth pushing a little bit, maybe 15 minutes to half an hour, but then at some point it's good to stop. And on a regular basis, I now believe that I would have been better served in the matches, for instance, by stopping earlier. I mean, I stopped, I was consistently stopping by 8:39 in by the time I was preparing for Sochi and so on. So I just got to a new rhythm then, because I felt in the evening everybody should have 2 hours where they can go for a nice long walk and watch a movie, whatever they do to relax.
having said that, I remember during the Bond and all these matches, if somebody would pop up accidentally, in our training room, they would have never realized a World Championship training is going on. Because every time some jokes will be going on, there will be some music, and only you have to look at their laptop to understand that what kind of work is going on.
Oh, sure. I mean, we were four very distracted people working for this thing, but still we got good work done, and maybe that's, I mean, a lot of companies and organizations have this habit of making the work area very playful, because it puts everyone in a good mood. These are well-known techniques. I think in chess especially, people can doze off sometimes, and so some amount of music and banter keeps things going.
Yeah. All right. So from a famous singer, now we are moving to a famous dancer. He has claimed that during Tal Memorial, after you lost a particular game, Aruna had sent a video clipping of him dancing. We are talking about Adhiban here. And after seeing him dance, his claim is that you became very positive and you ended up winning this tournament eventually. You forgot all about your loss. So he is asking, someone who considers you as his role model and wants to improve his speed of playing, being known as the Lightning Kid, what do you recommend to him?
Wow, that's not how I expected the question to go, because it started in one place and finished somewhere else. I think with everything, there is no magic solution. You just practice a lot. If you want to get better at playing fast, you practice that a lot. You want to practice thinking, you learn to slow down, and you practice thinking. You give yourself 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever, and you force yourself to think that, and so on. So it really, whatever you want to get better at, just do more of it. So,
fair enough.
Including dance.
Including dancing, yeah. Maybe soon we'll have a video of our famous dancer and famous singer together. That will be epic.
Yeah, but I mean, we have many classics. I mean, I remember Abhijit and DVP
dancing. Yeah, I had sent you this from Interpetroleum.
Well, you remember the classic Sasi singing Dankanaka.
Yeah.
And so every once in a while, well, it's also because you don't expect it from them, and that's what makes it really fun.
Exactly, yeah.
I know so many people who remember that I once did. There was a photo of me in the newspaper doing salsa. People remember only that.
Yeah, exactly. So there is Saikat who is asking, does he spend time in studying players of the past like Lasker, Stenitz, Chigorin, Breyer, Zuketot, etc.? Is it important to get understanding of chess? How did it help him?
My guess is it's worth doing if you don't expect quick results. I think you will find a lot of interesting questions, and certainly the games played then and the problems they faced. Well, entire generations of great players grew up with those games, so there's no reason for it not to be good material.
Sure.
But for sure, there is some modernity missing. I mean, when I remember when I was growing up, we had this feeling that the games of Morphe and all was some era before they realized you could defend properly.
Yeah.
Now, in fact, I think the opposite. I think that era is coming back almost because computers are showing that many of these openings are not as bad as we thought, like King's Gambit or whatever. So it's worth doing but you shouldn't expect that if you do it, you get results. You should do it because it's nice material. You should just.
I would like to add something. Like, should we work anything by this attitude that we will get result, or we should just work because we love doing it or we enjoy doing it?
You should do anything that way. I don't think you should expect results. But with historical games, the problem is the opening material is quite outdated. So even if you find beautiful ideas, you will then not be able to play them very easily. So,
right.
But definitely you will find interesting concepts which you can use.
Sure.
I think the first part of this question was, am I doing it? And I think nowadays we tend to drown in opening work. But every once in a while, I'll be in some modern variation and I realize the first game was played in 1879 or something. And then that really fascinates me.
Well, next question is from the Sleeping Beauty, Sandeepan. He is asking, is it important for the upcoming Indian talents to have a permanent base in Europe to realize their full chess potential?
I think it's not a bad idea. You'll definitely interact more with a lot of European chess players, and it's still the center of the most events happen there.
Cuts down the travel time.
Yeah, it cuts down travel time, but beyond that, I think it's nice to live in another country at least for a few years. It broadens your horizons, and it's interesting. And as chess players, it's one of the nice privileges that we have, that we have this opportunity to travel so much and explore. So I would do it for that. But when I did it, Europe was where all the tournaments were, and most of the best training I could do there. So it was especially convenient. Nowadays, I think you can have just as good productive training camps with many Indians. The level here is quite high, and so that gap isn't there. But still, as a way to grow as a person, I think it's not a bad idea to try living in another country.
Yeah, no, I think it makes a lot of sense. Like when you say broadens the horizon, I remember when we started working, this is another thing I learned. Like I was amazed by not only the chess knowledge you have, but also in general. I think I just simply got better educated just by working with you. Forget the chess part, I'm talking otherwise, like just general knowledge and everything. So yeah, there is a question from Soumya. So Soumya also had asked like some 6-7 questions, but I could ask only one, so I have already answered some of them on behalf of you. Like how do you? Yeah, so like I think she asked how you're remembering the openings and what is your schedule during the match and so on. So that I could answer. What I could not answer is what I'm going to ask you now. So he's asking, how do you evaluate a position? I have no idea how to answer this. So
yes, I have no idea also. My obvious answer is, well, I don't. That is too much of an involuntary action for me to. First of all, it's a moving process. You look at the board and you just do things automatically. You automatically think, oh, this is what my opponent has made. Well, what is the first question you ask? Whose move is it, right?
Right.
But in a game, you don't ask that question because it's evident. And this immediately, you try to get a sense of what's going on. You first try to get an evaluation. But this all happens so automatically that it's not something you say, well, now I do this, now I do that. In fact, this was my criticism at the very beginning of Kotov's book. I mean, it was a very impressive book, and I liked.
Just play like a grandmaster.
When I read it, it was fascinating. But later on, I consistently heard that.
Which book you are talking about?
Not how people think.
Play like a grandmaster.
What is the name of Kotov's The Art of Thinking? Is that it?
Possibly.
And he would set up this. Well, it was a big book when I was growing up. Because it was fascinating. He set this idea that. You could sit at the board and tell yourself, now I have to consider these 3 candidate moves, and now I must think logically. And in a way, he's addressing some of his weaknesses as well. I mean, I now thought this, but later on I realized that I should have been able to see this extra move also. But I think these books are very interesting to start you on the right track, but you can never implement them because that's not how we work. The process has to become second nature. It has to be like muscle memory. You just do these things automatically.
Yeah.
The second thing is, I would say, if you have studied one kind of opening or one kind of position, you'll do much better in that position than you'll do somewhere else, because in the meantime your intuition there got better.
Well, I see in the chat both Setu and Vaibhav has already mentioned that this is Think Like a Grandmaster book that we are talking about.
Think Like a Grandmaster. Okay.
Yeah. So we have some very strong audience here. Like the average rating is quite high. So there is a question from UK. Our friend Siddharth Sid. Yeah. So he's asking.
Okay.
Sid is asking, what is the main thing that the next generation of Indian chess needs to do to break 2700 and break into the elite?
Just get stronger. I mean, there is, for me, it's clear that right now we have a very, very strong field, a very strong bench. It's slightly puzzling that so few have broken about 2700. And I think especially with the younger players, we have very good chances that they will do so eventually. By eventually, I mean within the next 3 or 4 years, that at least a few of them will break through. But there is nothing different from how to get better to how to break 2700. Again, just keep working, keep trying, and keep at it.
Yeah. By the way, I'll also personally add one of my question here. Do you think there has been a lack of super tournaments in India in general? Like, we don't get to see top Indian players playing. Okay, there was this Kolkata tournament, but that's Rapid and Blitz. But like general classical tournament, like be it Vacancy or any elite tournament where the elite players will play, but since it is happening in India, we also get to give chances to like Indian young players.
I would say yes, and also there are simply not enough tournaments in India of the closed kind. I mean, Indian tournaments, we have a very good open circuit, and we have some internal events, but some good closed events. We should organize those.
Yeah.
And I agree with your point that especially the first year when Kolkata could get in a lot of host players, then it made for a nice event. So in the future, I hope there'll be more of these events. I don't necessarily see that they need to be classical. I think Rapid and Blitz is also fine, as long as the next generation sees great players appear and good games. I think it'll inspire them. But certainly a few classical events would be nice.
Sure. Yeah, I mean,
in general, we could do better with the organization. So.
Yeah, like I was saying the other day that I think, if I am not mistaken, Hari Krishna's classical tournament in India, if we don't count, Interpetroleum and other things, then I think it goes back to 2004. And for you, I'm not even counting. Like, okay, we are not counting obviously the official matches. I think in your case, it will be 92 Goodrick.
Well, there was also the World Cup in Hyderabad.
Yeah, that's what. Like, I'm not counting the official. You mean the World Cup was not official? Yeah, sure.
It was not a World Championship cycle thing. It was It was like the Grand Prix, but just different names.
Right. I've got a question from Shoraj Bosch. He has asked, your funniest memory on tour.
Wow. People have probably heard my story of when I was traveling on the train. I assume that's not the story
That is widely available. That is widely available also.
Yeah, that's widely available. Well, a funny story on tour. I can't really immediately think of one.
Okay, let's forget the tour part. How about in general? One of your funny experience? Funny moments?
I don't know. The problem is also finding something that will be universally funny. I mean, a lot of things that I think are funny, but
Okay. All right. So Murli Karthikeyan, Grandmaster Murli Karthikeyan, he has asked. His question has two parts. One is benefits of having seconds compared to working with players of similar strength, and what should one do when he feels like the preparation is over for that specific round and still has lots of time. I think the second part you can either do Sandy or Setu or Adiban, depending what is your profession.
Okay, I don't see a big difference with seconds and having sparring partners and people you collaborate with. The work will tend to be of a good level in both cases. The difference is, I think, if the second is just a more formal relationship, which means that when you go to a tournament, you know that everybody knows their roles and it works. Whereas when with your friends, if one day one of your friends doesn't want to be available, then what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
But I think aside from the fact that it's a formal relationship, it's very similar. I think it's fantastic if you've finished all your preparation, then I would strongly advise to have the confidence that you know your material and then to just let go. And, if you want to lie and read a book or something, don't do something destructive. Like don't play video games or something but if you can read a book or go for a nice walk and then go for the game, this is not a bad state to be in. I remember once Levon felt that he was preparing too much and he decided during some tournament that he was not going to prepare in the mornings at all. He was just going to bring a book and read it in the morning. He says, because, we just check the same lines over and over again and we maybe move a little bit further and move a little bit back. But I would rather have the full energy for the game in the sense. Now, obviously, you can't do this as a very young player because you're not done that preparation yet. Mm-hmm. But, nonetheless, I don't think Lemon's results were that bad. Sometimes you gain much more from not being tense than preparing and worrying for a game.
Actually, there is just two questions that popped up in my head right now. Like, first is, how do you react on the board when you have, let's say, prepared enough, and then you go and you find that your opponent plays something that was not expected or something that you missed in your preparation completely, which, let's say you wanted to check a particular line, let's say you wanted to check something in Sveshnikov, but then said, okay, this is not happening today. And that is what exactly happens on the board. How do you deal with that?
It's very annoying. And on the days that I didn't expect to check it at all, well, you get on with work. The days you think, what a fool I was not to have checked it, not to have followed my hunch, then you feel slightly worse. But in both cases, the game takes over. You just get on with playing and that's it.
Right.
If you don't remember it, then you have to work it out and you try to sit and try to think, what is it I would have checked? Think, what is the move? You'll still remember some strands, even if you don't remember the whole line, but it's a very annoying situation to be in.
There is second thing that just came to my mind that you said we are repeating lines, right? Everybody does this, I think. There must be some lines that we have checked probably 100 times, and yet before the game we have to check again. Sometimes does it feel right? Like, why do we have to see these lines like 50 times and still it doesn't get there? Still before the game we want to be sure that yes, we remember everything. I'm sure this happens with literally most of the chess players.
Yes, well, one of the problems is we discuss the same lines over and over. If it's the Berlin or the QGD, you'll tend to find yourself in the same positions over and over till some new ideas have developed and then everybody jumps there. But still, there are old lines which people will not check for a long time because there is no real action there. And what happens sometimes is that after a long time, if people come to some forgotten line, then other people have forgotten it. So you already get a small advantage there. And sometimes the computer will add some little detail and you think, okay, that's 3 or 4 problems that my opponent has to solve before the evaluation changes. So the evaluation of the line didn't change, but you can just add a little bit of venom and see if it works. So that's one reason why if some opening is quiet and there are no obvious opening problems, you should check all the sidelines and make sure that at least you have the first 2 bits solved, even if not the whole line.
Right. There is one question from Tanmay Srinath. He says, accurate and long calculations are difficult to do, especially when it involves countless intermediate moves. He gives a reference of your blind game that was shown in the first episode, the C4 against Deep Sen Gupta. So he says, it also becomes difficult to imagine the whole chessboard and all the possibilities after a certain point. So how does one train these two skills, the ability to calculate long and accurate variations and the ability to visualize the board correctly?
Again, I would give the same answer that I gave to, I think it was Soumya, right? That you can't train those skills verbally. He's describing it verbally, which is nice, but you can't break it down like that and think, I have now got to a position where I have to think creatively, or I have now got to. It has to happen at a much more internal level. And in the end, that means you just keep checking lines, looking at similar games, looking at positions. So, if you're not good where your opponent has a passed pawn in the center, or he has an isolated pawn and so on, you study 20, 30 games and then you'll get better at it. All the things that he describes will happen naturally.
Right.
But I'm a bit skeptical about the idea that you can train yourself to think in certain patterns. In certain ways. All you can do is get better overall in that position, and automatically things will happen better.
No, I absolutely agree with this. Also, this brings back to Soumya's question, like when she asked how to evaluate a position. I think after a certain period of time, things just happens at subconscious level. Yeah, I don't think you just sit there and say, there is an isolated pawn, I have a good square, or I have a good bishop, bad bishop. It just doesn't work that way, right?
It's very similar to how people speak languages. Nobody sits and thinks this is the verb, this is the noun, this is where this goes, this is an adjective. In fact, most of us have forgotten the grammatical terms.
Mm-hmm.
But the word pops into your head, and I think chess also is played like that.
Awesome. Question from Sarvanan. Historically, if you evaluate yourself with other world champions, what did you bring to table? So he says, for example, Botvinnik brought scientific approach to the profession, Kasparov depth of opening preparation. What is the new thing that you brought into table?
I don't know. I think it's much easier for other people to evaluate this than you yourself. And also, I have not had the time to sit and reckon. I don't know if. Also, it's interesting because Kasparov wrote this book where he tried to label everyone, and I think now people just think these are what these world champions brought to the table. But 30 years before, 40 years before, if you had actually gone and asked these champions what they thought they would bring, I'm not sure they would be able to describe it either. At any rate, I don't know. I've not thought about it too much.
Well, if I have to give an answer right now, I would say that you brought variety in the game. Like prior to you, like you are the guy who is there everywhere, like who was playing all sorts of openings. I'm not counting the sidelines that has been popularized now, but let's say Fischer and all, they would have something fixed, yeah. And for you, you are just all over. You tried every single thing, and I think that was very unique.
Yes, it's a long enough career, and also it's tough to compare with Fischer because his world championship career was so short. It was brilliant, but it was so short. And even within that thing, in the Spassky match, for instance, there's some Malikins, there's stuff that he didn't normally play.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, my answer is I don't know. I tried to be flexible, and that's the reason I got to play a lot of different formats. For the World Championship even. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, someone like Botvinnik, he had nothing but matches. After the first tournament in 48, he didn't have
he was not playing anything.
So even if he'd wanted to try other formats, it wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, but also he was very particular on that. He felt, he even said that that is how it should be back then. Like one should just prepare for matches.
Well, I would agree in that sense that in the 50s and 60s, given how we worked on chess and how we did things in chess, mm-hmm. a match was the best way to discover certain things. Sure. And as a sporting contest, that's where the match came in. But I think chess has evolved a lot since then, so we can be more open to new ideas.
Mhm. In live question, I see that Doil Paki Dasgupta is asking, how many questions do you know? How has learning new languages trained your brain? Other than English and Spanish, do you speak any other foreign language? Well, I know you speak German, but yeah, uh, has
Yes,
it?
well, so I speak some decent German, and that's about it for foreign languages. Languages are good because very often, what is nice about languages is very often what is expressed as a long sentence in one language will often have some very concise verb in another, because each language prioritizes different things.
Mhm.
And certainly when I think and speak in Spanish, I'm thinking slightly differently than when I used to at the beginning, when I used to think in English and try to say the sentences in Spanish. But yes, I think it's very healthy to be able to think in two different languages, because you genuinely even think different thoughts. That's what I read about as well.
Yeah, one question just popped up in my mind, but before that, I'll say in the chat, I see everybody is saying that you're the king of adaptability. So,
I wouldn't argue with that too much. I mean, even in my book, this is what I keep saying, that at some point I got into this attitude of I don't care what format, what opponent, what cycle, what the VDA president decides. If I like something, I will. I mean, if that's on offer, then I will overcome my preferences and try to do well in that. And maybe this attitude is very good in the beginning, especially when the knockouts came out. I mean, when Ilimshinov introduced the first knockout in '97,
Groningen, no?
Groningen and
Groningen.
Lausanne. I mean, some people were scathing, some people were very dismissive about it, um, but they still went through it. And my attitude, and I was young. Certainly, I wouldn't say that I've been able to do this consistently, but when I was young, I just thought I'm going to take this seriously because otherwise I won't be able to do well at it. And I took it as seriously as I could, and it turned out well. And the same thing with the World Cup format, and then some other formats and so on. I mean, these other World Cups, not the knockout.
Sure.
And then tournaments. I was the right age to like rapid events, in the sense that I was 21, 22 when rapid events just exploded on the scene. So that was very favorable. I mean, I saw a generation, people like Potish, Geller, Kochnoy, and all. They played one or two rapid games, and then they're just thinking this is ridiculous.
Yeah. By the way, did you see
more or less the feeling that our generation has when we have Bullet or something? This thing with this is ridiculous because it's just pieces flying. Yeah, they have that feeling. But as in anything, I mean, any time control, there is some element of skill involved, and it's worth trying to do that.
By the way, did you see that Grishuk once said, very recently I saw in an interview that it's pity that there were not many rapid tournaments when you were growing, because you would have some 6 World Championship title apart from what you have already now. The rapid championships were not very popular, rapid and blitz. Probably you would have got more.
I saw that comment, and I partially agree, and I'm happy he said it. Yes, I played. Actually, most of my career, there were excellent rapid tournaments. I mean, we had the Amber tournaments, we had Mainz, we had Corsica.
Mainz you won like 11 times, no?
Right. Well, Bad Soden, Frankfurt, and Mainz, so all three. But yes, and I played the Imopar trophies, I played the Intel Grand Prix, and they were fantastic. But there was no rapid or blitz rating, and there were no official championships. And so, in terms of my records, there was literally the first World Rapid Blitz I could win. Well, there was one event in Cap d'Agde in 2003, which was called the World Rapid Championship.
Right.
So I won that, and at least I got one off. And after that, I don't remember when the next one was. Maybe it was 2006 in Rishon, but that was World Blitz. And definitely I could have a few more because in those days my rapid record was very strong.
Right. Getting back to this language thing, so you speak fluent English, Spanish, German and Tamil. I am certainly curious, when you are calculating during a game, Okay, we are calculating moves and so on. What language you're using normally? Is it Tamil, English, Spanish? It's
I don't think I calculate in words. I mean, literally, the piece goes there, that goes there. Isn't that how it works?
it's not like some kind of evaluation. You don't get any language. It's just like this chess notation you are calculating. Like nowhere you were saying like say okay here I am better. Maybe I should go for this. Such things does not occur.
That's a fascinating question. Maybe that's how we. I mean, in a sense, when you're annotating a game or you're explaining to another person, you have to convert your thoughts into language. But internally, I think it's literally you just see stretches of moves and then you decide at the end if you like the position or not.
Right.
At least I don't feel that language is a big part of that.
Right.
I mean, you may have all sorts of conversations with yourself where you think, now I should stop and think, and this is what I did last time, and things like that, but not moves itself. So.
Sure. There's a question from Vaibhav Suri. He says, around the time you became Grandmaster or even earlier when you were young, did you ever consider alternate career options, considering sports, chess in particular, had an obscure image and future? Also, if you could talk a little about the psychological and social impact you faced because of choosing a non-traditional career.
I didn't consider any other career too seriously, and I mentioned this in a few places that I was lucky that at the moments when you might be tempted to consider your options, my chess results were quite good. So when I had finished my 10th standard, I became national champion. In fact, I became national champion before I finished my 10th standard exams. Then a few months after I finished my 12th standard exams, I won the World Junior, and then a few months later, after joining university, I became a grandmaster. And when I became a grandmaster, I thought my at least financially, this was a much better option than almost any profession I could think of. So if you think about, whether you're being a doctor, I think because of the currency situation as well, financially it was better to be a grandmaster than to. It would be much further along in my career as a doctor, as a lawyer, or working in a company before my financial prospects would catch up. So I clearly saw that this was, and the second thing is, it was good enough that I didn't need to think about it, and literally that's what all of us need to. That's the only excuse the rest of us need to play chess, right? So I mean, if you're really happy in that, then it was great. As for the rest of the world, there were some awkward moments, but mostly people were used to it. I mean, people understood that sports and all are difficult careers and are unusual careers. And in terms of social standing, people don't know where to rank you.
Sure.
But if you're the best at something, then it's different. I mean, if you're the national champion or world junior champion or grandmaster title is also very magical. I mean, a lot of people think this word has very nice connotations. So you say you're a grandmaster and that looks special.
Right.
So I didn't experience the downside of that at all.
Sarvanand meanwhile is saying
and soon once I got to very high ranking, it didn't even matter. Sorry, what's that?
Sure. No, I said Sarvanand meanwhile said that he is sure that if you're when you're cursing on the board, it must be Tamil. If you're cursing at the board, it has to be Tamil.
Well, yeah, I mean, there are certainly some choice words that Deepan and Arun Prasad have employed, which I remember very fondly, and that expression comes up a lot. So,
all right.
But in this case, I'm telling myself. But anyway.
Okay. So there is a question from Ashwin from Bangalore. It says, hello Vishy, I'm Ashwin from Bangalore. Given recent technological advances in real-time biofeedback, for example, heart rate, calories burnt, and even emotion sensing, what is your opinion as a player on using this information as part of game broadcast to make it more interesting, dramatic for the audience, and hence possibly attract more sponsors?
I think it's interesting. Definitely, they once in the Isle of Man they were having heart monitors, and one day they monitored mine, and it's nice. Eventually, the only interesting thing is it's random data until one day when you compare everybody and you say, oh, this guy is really calm, this player is is quite tense when he's playing, and that sort of thing. But you have to come up with new angles to keep the audience interested. So I agree with that if you try to tell interesting stories, then people will pay attention, because everybody, when they see what you do, they're still trying to relate it to what they are, and it's only if you can make that connection do they. So the reason even sports that you don't follow, if your country is playing, that's the connection. Oh, these people are my country, they're representing the flag, I will follow. But next thing could be, when he plays, he's burning so many calories, his heart rate is good. Oh, so then this is as I used to do when I do my 5-kilometer run in the morning. Oh, it's that intensive. Oh, then I should take it seriously. So definitely, every connection you can make is useful.
Sure. Before we move on to the chess segment, I got one last question. It's from Kidambi. It says, considering Anand's rise to the top as Lightning Kid back in the days of Tal Club, where clearly he did not have any training apart from self-training, I think he already became a 2600 plus GM with this, even beating Kasparov and Karpov even winning the tournament where Kasparov-Karpov played in Reggio Emilia. How does he compare this with, say, Magnus rise, which is also on his own, and also lots of internet blitz and preliminary tacit learning? I see Nihal is coming up in similar way now. Could be interesting to hear your thought on this.
I agree fully. In fact, a lot of parallels. When I was coming up, nobody expected nobody expected someone big to come from India, and in fact, people thought the average level there isn't high enough to produce a strong grandmaster. And with Norway as well, I mean, there was no sign that anything interesting was going to happen in Norway in chess till Magnus came along. And our learning methods were very similar. Mine was going to Calchas Club and playing a lot of blitz. Magnus used to play a lot and still does. Plays a lot online. I heartily approve of the current generation of young players as well. What Nihal is doing, Prag is doing. This habit of playing a lot of blitz definitely is one of the best ways to get in a lot of chess.
By the way, just this brings me to another topic again. How do you see this? Like I see, let's say Magnus and Firuza, they're playing lots of bullets and all. And after a certain point, it's not chess anymore. It's about how fast you're pre-moving. How beneficial do you think? Because as we were discussing the other day, we tend to copy world champions. So when people are seeing Magnus doing, playing this 1 minute chess, and even if someone is rook down or something, when there is no connection of chess, but there is lots of pre-move going on. So young generation is also learning that way. How do you see this? Is it really useful?
Look, I would never do it. I draw the line at bullet, and this pre-move seems to me something from another planet. Exactly the way Geller responded long back. But I would not be too judgmental there either. I would withhold my opinion, because even if you play bullet, the thought of making a pre-move, you're still thinking of the board and making an observation. And even a pre-move is giving you some trade-off. Mm-hmm. So I don't have a strong enough opinion to dismiss it, and and the evidence doesn't support me. I mean, people like Magnus and
Firuza, Nihal,
even though despite they play bullet, they're quite strong. Mm-hmm. Despite the fact that they play bullet, they're quite strong. So I can't dismiss it offhand. But if someone came to me for advice, I would just say, well, no, play with at least 3 minutes, because I need you to think about this rather than just train this. But,
I'll tell you a funny story. So,
but maybe it's just that I have a kind of mental block there, and I can't help it.
I'll tell you a funny story. So in this FIDE Grand Swiss Isle of Man, last day after the closing ceremony, I saw players are playing Bughouse and Blitz. So I went to Nihal. I know he is a big Blitz specialist and Bullet specialist. So I said, if we could play a little bit, and he's like, yeah. I said, shall we play Bullet? He's like, no, not Bullet. Let's play 10+1. I said, no, 10 minutes is too much. He's like, no, we'll play 10 seconds with additional 1 second increment.
I mean, my absolute floor is 1 minute.
Yeah.
And 10 seconds, I don't even know what to think of that.
Yeah, exactly. And some of the games I got crushed by Nihal, where when the game ended, he had 26 seconds. I realized it's like a different planet. He just knows. Yeah, his hands are actually hurting after the game.
Yeah, I mean, there are many things in life which I don't understand. I mean, this is one of the things I said is broadening your horizons. There are other cultures that I don't even pretend to understand. They do things that I would never do. But you know enough to think, well, but they are doing it and they're intelligent and you should leave it.
Yeah, and they are very strong players.
I have no words for Nihal.
Yeah.
10+1 for me is on the. I wouldn't recommend it to someone, but to each their own. What can I say?
Sure. Shall we move to the chess part? I'll send you
Sure.
Yeah. So can we come to chess.com then?
Yeah. Okay.
You got the invitation, right? Or not yet?
1 second. Not yet, but
wait.
yeah.
Now we got it, huh? So I'll change this in OBS.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is some problem with your video. Just a second, Anand. How do I fix it?
You have to share screen or what?
No, you don't have to do anything. There is some problem with the video, it seems. Your audio is coming fine, but your video froze.
Okay. For me, you were frozen. I understand.
So maybe it's in the Zoom, yeah. Yeah, now I think
could be. Maybe we have to disconnect and reconnect or something in Zoom.
From now, what I see.
No, but then.
Yeah, then again we have to like add everything, so that's kind of annoying.
Yeah.
No, now I think it's fine.
Okay, but you're still frozen for me.
Okay.
I mean, basically, I have a picture of you and your audio tone. But okay, let's go on.
Okay, but you see the board, right?
Yes, I see the board.
Right. Do you remember the game, obviously?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So the thing is, I was also seeing this game live, and this I wanted to ask you, like, I have seen.
Where were you when you?
Well, I was seeing it live, internet. No, this is 2003 already.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So I was always curious, like, with the speed you take the decisions. Like here, you played Bishop D3, and this happened very fast. And I also remember asking you, like, how you take such intuitive decisions so fast. And your explanation was like very crystal clear. So I'll be happy if you can share this once again. Like how it is how such moves comes very naturally to you. It's not about the move in particular, but with the speed you are actually executing this. Because for instance, for me, okay, Rook G1 is also a very standard move, threatening G4, and also I'm making a square to F1. But here probably Queen G4 is kind of annoying. So you went Bishop D3 very fast.
Queen G4, but also Rook G1, Bishop D4 is quite annoying.
Yeah, sure. Bishop d4 as well.
And but my reasoning was the following: there is just very few moves that I have, and it was also slightly practical. I mean, McShane was down to a couple of minutes already.
Mm-hmm.
And no, sorry, is this after the time control?
No. This is before that. This is 31st move.
Okay, because on the notation you've given, it's
31st.
Yeah, no, I remember there's a bit of a time scramble left.
Right.
And if you think about candidate moves,
Mm-hmm.
of course, I don't think about candidate moves like that, as I've already described. But if you think of, I mean, there are not that many pieces white can move. We can move his rook, but that feels wrong because then bishop f8 or bishop c3, and then
Right.
pawns will start dropping.
Mm-hmm.
I can't move my knight. Rook g1 makes no sense. I just don't have that many moves.
Mm-hmm.
And then the idea is, if I can get rid of this bishop, I can play b5. So I might have considered some move like bishop d7 with the idea of rook d7, then f6.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem then would be rook a7, fg7, rook takes a6, and half my pawns are gone.
Sorry, bishop d7, rook d7, b5.
F6.
No, f6. Here
no,
f6.
f6.
Mm-hmm.
And then minimum rook a7, fg7, rook a6, and half my pawns have disappeared, and it's
Right.
a good. I mean, I've lost the prize pawn.
Right.
And so very quickly, I would have come to bishop d3,
Mm-hmm.
and given the fact that I still have 3 pawns, and that if he captures, my knight comes back to life, it's decent odds, I think.
Right. All right. Yeah. So game was pretty. There are some hiccups somewhere here. I think probably knight d2, taking knight d2 is better. And here probably black
Yes,
could
for
play
sure.
d4.
There were some mistakes because I overestimated my position. I got excited, and then in fact later on when we analyzed, I realized that black could have even been better. I think almost.
Right. But in the end, it was very like after I think you took knight d2, it was very clean.
Yeah.
There is another position which is very famous, but the other day when I was seeing, I found an interesting observation. So let's get to the position. Okay, so pretty much every chess player knows this position by now. This is your famous game with Karyakin. And when I saw this game, I was almost sure this was your opening preparation. But later you told me that that is not the case. You played this over the board. So two things. Once again, how you played this so fast? Because here definitely this is not the most obvious move. I mean, there are moves like, let's say, d5, or you could sack the knight on f6, which also makes sense. You get your bishop to f6, but you played knight c7 relatively fast, and after queen c7 you sacked another piece, and okay, this became a classic basically. How you came to this conclusion? Like to take such fast decision.
Well, knight f6, I think the problem would simply be gf6, bishop f6, and either bishop g5 or rook takes d6, and immediately that so-called edge goes. And if rook takes d6, the rook is coming to b6 as well, and
sure,
it seems wrong.
Sure.
You said knight c7 isn't obvious, but for me it was almost the only move that popped into my head.
Amazing.
And so the only question was, well, is it correct? Because I couldn't believe Karyakin had that look of someone who was well prepared and had checked this and was very confident. So I might have hesitated for a couple of minutes, but really I didn't see any other move.
Right.
And I thought, and I couldn't see what was wrong with knight c7, and so I went ahead with it.
Do you know that
this is also how it's supposed to be? That if you're confident, you believe in yourself, and you do.
Exactly. The thing that was very amazing for me when I was checking this line, like checking this game, that this entire combination works only with the pawn on h4. If the pawn would be on h3, then this entire combination does not work. I don't think such things occurs to you when you are playing a game, but does it amazes you?
This I don't know at all. What is the difference?
So basically what happened in the game was, okay, queen c7, rook c8 takes, knight c4. Now white has to play g6. There is just no other way, because otherwise it's mate. And g6, if you start with, let's say, knight a3, this does not work because gf7, king h8, and there is queen. And after take, I think, wait, how does it go? queen takes, and queen takes f8, queen takes f8, and bishop d4. And white is somehow consolidating, because next I think rook d2 is coming.
Okay.
So that's why you took hg6 first, fg6, and this is the only way to do it. And now
Correct.
take, and after gf7, now you have the h7 square. But this thing will not work with
Correct.
the pawn on h3.
Oh, okay, I get it. Okay, right.
Because then there will be check, king g6, rook here, check, and then rook d7 check, and rook takes d7 check, and wins. So I found it very fascinating. Yeah, like who would even realize that with the pawn on h3 this entire thing does not work? Because we will think pawn on h4 is better for white.
Yeah, but I would. Yeah, this is actually, in this case, it's pre-baked. I mean, I know the pawn is already on h4, so I only see that, and I don't see the resource for white because the pawn is already on h4, and it became convenient. But would I have spotted it if the pawn was on h2 at this point? I don't know.
I think you would, because anyway, like when you played knight c7, you definitely must have calculated g6, because what else? Yeah, like how else white could play, and then and okay, just for the audience, I'll finish the game. Takes queen f8, and of course not queen f8, but Anand goes.
No, this was quite surprising for me that it's a mate just with these two pieces. But anyway.
Yeah, this was amazing. So what is like rook b, king b1 is rook b2? Yeah, that's the main point. No, what is it? Sorry, king b. The king b1, then you take.
Then I take on f8, and g2 is attacked as well, and so on.
Yeah, and king c3 check. Yeah, amazing combination. All right, so moving on to the next game. Yeah, there was one particular position. I'm sure you recognize this position.
Yeah, sure.
So once again, same question to you. So this was rapid, yeah. You are playing against Carlsen in a very important game. So this is Sodi. So how obvious is knight c8 to you? Like you played.
For me, there's a awkward thing that unless I really sit and think about this position, I don't know if black is better or white is better. I mean, it looks uncomfortable because if g7 drops, any amount of chaos can happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so knight c8, the way I saw it, it's a cuck minimum is a draw kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Cuck minimum for the audience, that means bare minimum.
Yeah. So it's. I just thought knight c8 is a great move to make with about 6 minutes because I'm out of danger and maybe I'm better. But I did not think I was. My feeling was I'm not better because even if I somehow end up a pawn up with an opposite color bishop thing, with the bishop sitting on c3 and we have a rook each, I wasn't sure that. And there's also the question: I might be better, but am I better in a rapid game with a few minutes left? So.
Yeah, because this game also I was seeing live, and such moves always makes a strong impression on me. Like with the speed you get to this conclusion, because with the general principle we don't see this kind of moves. It doesn't come immediately in the mind. Like knight c8 to d6 would be more natural.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, just for the audience, I'll finish this particular game, and I think somewhere here. Here Magnus blundered. He thought it's a draw, and here he resigned.
Well, to be honest, both of us did at the beginning.
But
I mean, I mentioned it in my notes that when we had 4 minutes, I also thought it's a draw. But I just thought, well, 4 minutes, I can easily run him down. I can think for 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes, and still take the draw. So let me think for a while. This turned out to give me a very valuable point.
Yeah, and then probably, then you spotted bishop f3 and knight e4, yeah?
Correct. And then knight e4.
Yeah, knight takes e5, yeah, true. Great. I have just 2 more things. Remember this one?
Yeah, this was classic against Gary.
Yeah. I will try to show. I don't know if it is my internet that is having some issue or from your end, but I'll try to show the audience. It's a small 30 seconds clipping. Just see if it works out.
Two pawns up, technically winning position. He's just exchanging pieces now. It's all over. What's the queen takes g4? What's he overlooked? This is incredible. The queen on g4 attacking the rook on c8. Now, what black's queen is attacked on e3. White should have played. Wait a second, queen. The black queen moves back. Queen check. King up. He's castled. Sacking his queen.
Yeah, I just showed the audience this Kasparov video, his famous reaction. Can you take us?
Right.
Can you take us through the this Grand Prix? Yeah, this is the one you won.
Yeah. So he won game 1, and then I was in pretty much a hopeless situation because I had black in game 2, and it's a 2-game match.
Mm-hmm.
And with no, I mean, I just felt like a kamikaze guy. I mean, I felt so reckless that he played d4, and I just went for the King's Indian. I mean, I had not studied the King's Indian at all.
Mm-hmm.
I just played it, and I just thought, well, it doesn't matter because literally you have so few options.
Mm-hmm.
And then I won that game. So, surprisingly, he complicated his life so much, and he managed to lose that game.
Mm-hmm.
So that was nice. Then game 3, I was winning, but I mixed it up. I messed it up, and then this position came.
Right.
And I played this disastrously because obviously after his move rook e1, if he plays knight e3, I can resign and that's
Yeah,
it.
yeah. And then, like knight e3
But he
and then
played
just...
queen e3, and then I couldn't believe my eyes, and then I gratefully took on g4.
Yeah, no, this was the epic video, yeah, and...
Yeah, and then, we got the full
then it's so just...
performance.
Yeah.
And it was excellent. And afterwards, I remember when I finished that game, I couldn't resist lifting my hands up in triumph. Maybe you showed it a bit.
Yeah. No, that video was not here.
I just felt, what the hell.
Yeah, of course.
And,
but
and afterwards, that evening,
this game itself decided, right? This was the decider game.
This was it, because we had drawn the 3rd game and this was the 4th, and so
Right.
if whoever won this won the match.
Mm-hmm.
And afterwards, Kasparov told Frederick, if I had won such a game, I would hide myself. I would not lift my hands up, or something to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
And while I don't disagree with the sentiment, I wanted to remind him on how many occasions he swindled me and raised his hand. I mean, just the previous, maybe 1 or 2 months before this, the previous year, he had won one totally lost position against me in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And afterwards, he didn't say how lucky he was. He said, I kept fighting for resources, I kept fighting for chances, and sometimes you have to pose problems and all this stuff. And I thought, okay, well, that's what I did. So, but anyway, I mean, at least I cannot say, this was perfect for me. It was it was a very nice rapid event in Geneva, and just a great event. And so we had a very good time.
Yeah. Adivan is saying it's karma. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, well, I agree. What can I say?
One last position that I wanted to discuss. It was also very difficult to select the position because also I wanted to particularly avoid the position. I saw a very good article on you which came in Chessbiz India, where they took some 10 or 12 positions from your great games. So I particularly wanted to avoid those because then people can see variety of different positions. But I just kept this Karyakin one because I thought this pawn on h3 and h4, it's kind of a nice addition. Do you remember this particular position, Anand?
Yes, my game with Gelfand from Linares.
Yeah. So I was.
And by the way, also my game with Belyavsky from 2 days before. I think.
In the same tournament, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to know the following. Like, this is 1993, and back then I don't know how computers were. Probably it was not very useful. And you found an idea here. Okay, you played knight b4, takes, knight d3, king d2, and g6. I was checking this even today morning with all the best engines, and it still is. This is the top move. Like from starting from this position, this knight b4, knight d3, and g6. This particular analysis that you had, knight b4 being a novelty, this was the top choice. This is the top choice right now even. So I'm just trying to understand, like some of the analysis, from 1993 that you did still holds. Your thoughts on that, like how you were analyzing back then, because I have no idea how things were back then. So I just want to know, how much engine evaluation was there when you find an idea. Yeah.
Well, it simply I didn't know. It was like Fritz 2 or Fritz 3 at this point. I don't remember. Very, very basic. But I remember suddenly seeing this move knight b4. I thought, well, why didn't I do that? And of course, after king d2, I thought, that must be it. But of course, in those days, the computer was not strong enough to give any sort of thing. So I put g6 in, and then I don't remember the reaction, to be honest. We would have to test it on some old machine.
No, precisely my point, I think, because now any guy could, like with a strong engine will find knight b4, knight d3 and g6 because the engine will suggest. Because when I was looking at this position, I realized in 1993 computers, there is no way they will suggest g6. So it has to come from you, like from your end. There has to be a human touch. So do you think this human touch has reduced as the computer engine sort of, like they become more and more strong? This human touch is getting less valuable.
I would say that the human touch still exists, and you can still disagree with the computer or find some very original move. It's getting harder and harder and rarer, but this is of course just a fantastic exception, because I found the idea in all of 10 seconds. In fact, I found it as I was entering the previous game into my because those days there was no PGN file and so on, so you had to enter your moves yourself. So I was entering the game in myself into my computer, and then this happened, and I suddenly spotted g6. And when girlfriend walked into it, I did it. But literally, that is the start and end of my preparation. I mean, how glorious it was, because your preparation ended in 2 seconds.
Sure. Yeah, but back in those days. By the way, wasn't with girlfriend also where you had some sort of mouse slip and that turned out to be a good novelty? I remember you told me this one somewhere.
Bishop a1.
Bishop a1.
Yes.
Yeah, Bishop a1. It was some sort of mouse slip, right?
Yes, yes, that was the one. I must have just put. Maybe there were 2 moves at that point, and then I accidentally put it the second move, and it turned out that was winning as well, or something like that. I don't remember the details, but yes, Bishop a1 was a very nice finish.
Right. Wonderful. And these are the positions basically I wanted to discuss with you. And thank you, Anand, for joining for 4 episodes, and it was an honor to have you in my channel, and I'm sure the audience will agree with me. It was wonderful the way this interviews took place. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Surya.
Yeah. Bye. Yeah, just hi guys, give me a little time again. I am trying to fix the camera. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, I'm sorry that this Anand's camera froze somehow. I don't know where it was where the problem was. If it was from my end or if it was from Anand's end. But anyway, I kept on going because the chess part was going on in a very nice way, and I didn't want to stop it. So even if Anand's video froze, at least his voice was clear. So I thought we should keep going. Yeah, I see in chat, can you complete the last game? Well, I did not have time to complete the last game, but I can tell you this is Gelfen versus Anand from Linares 93, so you can simply Google. Thank you guys for watching. Few things that I want to announce. Number one, I saw in chats people are asking if all the moderators are, like if they are real grandmasters. Yes. First of all, let me be very clear. All the moderators in my channel are my close friends and my colleagues, and basically all strong players are here, and I'm glad. This means a lot for me. Like you guys are here and supporting. Harika is asking who is the next guest. That's actually quite a surprise. I still don't know the timings, but it will definitely happen next Saturday. The exact timing I'll let you know. My next guest is Levon Aronian from Armenia, who is also my. I played lots of this age group tournaments with him, and a fascinating personality, and of course an elite class player. So we will have Aronian for Saturday and Sunday. To all the viewers, this is what I have been planning. I'll make 2 episodes with these players. The first one will be where I'll be asking different questions and going through the positions. And I also welcome all of you to send me any questions that you want me to ask to these players. So for instance, if you have any questions for Aronian, just drop a message in Insta or Facebook or YouTube, wherever. To all my colleagues, those who are in touch with me in personally in WhatsApp, you can give suggestion, because as of now, I have not prepared what I'm going to ask him. So any kind of suggestions are welcome. And yeah, before that, Friday I'll be having my next solo show. I have not decided on the topic, but Friday will be the next session. And thank you guys once again, and thanks for being nice in chat. And today also I could not focus on chat that much because I had like lots of questions. Sorry if I have missed a couple of questions. What is that background tuk voice? Yeah, I'm sorry guys, some construction work is going on and which I could not stop. So yeah, so hopefully next weekend that will not be there. So see you on Friday for the solo show, and Saturday, Sunday with Levon Aronian. Again, if you like my shows and if you like my channel, please do subscribe. If you dislike something, please write in the comments so that I can improve. Thank you for joining, and thanks everyone for being so nice. Bye bye.